When people think about the stories in the Bible, there are several that come to mind. Adam and Eve in the garden, Noah and the ark, and Jonah and the whale, to name a few. Let's take a brief look at Jonah and how his story begins. We'll read Jonah chapter 1, verses 1 to 3. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down into Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. Nineveh was one of the 4 biggest cities of the region at that time. It was a city known for its worship of idols as well as its brutal treatment of prisoners of war. It was not a great place for good people, at least according to Jonah. At first, Jonah was anything but obedient. God told him to go to Nineveh. Instead, he went in the opposite direction. It would have been a 500-mile trip for Jonah to obey God, probably taking him about a month to get to Nineveh. But Jonah decided to go to Tarshish instead. Tarshish wasn't just in the opposite direction from Nineveh. It was actually 4 times farther away. It was about 2,000 miles south of where Jonah was. He was committed to his disobedience. We all know what happened next. Jonah fled. One thing led to another, and he found himself swallowed by a big fish. It was in the belly for 3 days. Jonah cried out to God, and God made the big fish throw him up on the shore. God repeated his command to Jonah. This time, Jonah obeyed and went to Nineveh, preaching the message God told him to preach. Jonah eventually obeyed, but he still had a hard heart. In fact, we read at the end of his story that he told God, "I'm so angry. I wish I were dead." He was mad that God wanted to show compassion on the city he hated. Jonah wanted God to wipe it out. He went to Nineveh and preached what God told him to preach, but then he sulked because God didn't do what Jonah thought was best. That's not exactly a great example of long obedience. We can learn a lot from Jonah about what not to do. Jesus taught that stewardship of our lives as his disciples means we do the hard stuff God calls us to do, even if it doesn't look like what we think it should. Even if it means the journey will be long or difficult, stewardship is long obedience, following him. Let's read Matthew 16, verses 24 to 26. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul?" In the Salvation Army, we have a heritage of self-denial, specifically for the purpose of setting aside money to help people in other parts of the world. That heritage is related to this teaching. Jesus says disciples must deny themselves. This is in direct contrast to the world's values, where we're told to put self first. Instead, Jesus says kingdom values means putting the king first. But our king doesn't look like what the world thinks either. Instead of coming to the earth to sit on a throne, he came to die on a cross. In Jesus' day, criminals would have to carry their cross to the place of crucifixion. It was a public display that the criminal was submissive to the ruling authority. Jesus willingly accepted this form of death to save the whole world. He asks us to respond in gratitude by carrying our cross too. What does that mean? Denying oneself isn't about denying things. It's about the symbolic carrying of our cross. This means that we publicly live under the authority of Jesus. We live like him, we serve like him, we love like him. And we don't do this just once or twice. We do it over the long haul, every day. This is long obedience. This is stewardship of our lives as disciples of Jesus. Jesus isn't asking us to carry a literal cross on our shoulder like he did. But just like he did, he's asking us to lose our life in order to find it. We give up ourselves, our priorities, our rights, our plans, all for his purposes. Like in Jonah's story, God will have the final say. He'll accomplish what he wants to accomplish, whether we obey or not. We could try to run the other way. He could still use us despite our hard heart. Or we can take up our cross and lose our life by giving it over to Jesus in obedience. And by doing so, we will discover that we found the best life possible with him. What will you choose?